Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be covering the new Lucio emote, which is linked to the Overwatch League All Access Pass, and whether or not Blizzard are doing enough to tackle console Overwatch's biggest and most long-term problems. There's a lot to talk about, so let's just jump straight in. So unless you've been living under a rock, you might have seen an absolutely top tier new emote for Lucio making the rounds on Twitter and YouTube. He busts out his DJ gear and just starts spinning energy records dancing around while he does it. It's great, and it's very Lucio if you know what I mean. The emote was announced on last night's Overwatch League broadcast and is available to owners of the All Access Twitch Pass from July 24th onwards. Now for myself, this is good news, as I have the pass already. I'm a fan of the league, so getting this emote is a real bonus. However, its inclusion in a bundle that can cost up to $30, particularly one so close to the end of the season, has not escaped some criticism. Some people have said it's effectively $30 for an emote, as the perception is that the emote is of such high quality that people will buy the pass just to get it and ignore all the other stuff. Now I'm going to try and be as fair as possible to both sides. First of all, the pass being $30 is actually pretty good value in my opinion, as long as you are a fan of Overwatch esports. You get loads of skins, global chat emotes for Twitch, extra background content to watch, etc. From that point of view, I think its value for money isn't really in question, so getting this as an extra just adds more on top of that. But there are many players of Overwatch who don't watch the league at all and don't care about all that extra stuff. They do, however, like great cosmetics for their favourite heroes, and to them, this is just a very steep cost for a single item. Here's where I can somewhat understand that sentiment. The emote isn't Overwatch League themed. As I said earlier, it's very intrinsic to Lucio's character and lore. He's a DJ superstar. This emote very effectively reflects that. It's also clearly had a lot of effort put into it. It's far more elaborate than some other emotes in the game. If it had just been Lucio interacting with an Overwatch League logo or something, I could understand it being a simple bonus item, like the grey skins you get with the pass are. But for Lucio fans, I can see how they'd be annoyed. It's not like the pink Mercy skin example either, which was expensive but for a very good cause. If you aren't a fan of the league, this could be interpreted as paywalling someone. Now personally, I don't feel it is absolutely cut and dry as that. I think overall the All Access Pass is good value and it is just a cosmetic. It doesn't affect the gameplay at all, but I don't think it would be unfair to also offer this emote via some other route at a later date. As someone who's going to get it effectively for free because I have already purchased the pass, you know, for the extra league content it's meant to facilitate, I have no problem with other people also acquiring it from another source. Perhaps in an event loot box or something, or maybe, and this raises a very interesting question, it should be made available for direct purchase at a lower price at some point in time. If that were to happen, what would a reasonable price be? $3? $5? You guys will have to weigh in on this issue for me. Are you a Lucio main who's a bit mad about this, or do you already own the access pass like me and are just jazzed to be getting it? Let me know how you feel about it in the comment section below. Our second topic for today's video is the console community's ongoing frustration with their version of the game, or to put it another way by asking a question, are Blizzard ignoring a lot of the very long-term problems with the console experience? A user called Sackboys posted a Reddit thread a few days ago talking about the multitude of issues that are still plaguing the console experience. It's since had its main body of text removed, but if the long list of comments are anything to go by, a lot of the issues discussed in it really struck home. Now as far as I can discern from the console community, console Overwatch has some pretty serious long-term challenges, mostly centered around mouse and keyboard players who use peripherals like a Zim to get an unfair advantage, the sheer amount of smurfs present in the game because of how console online accounts work, several balance problems unique to that platform, and poor optimization which leads to games starting sometimes without certain models loading in time, and that's just naming a few of them. Let's deal with the mouse and keyboard use first. We've covered this before, so I'll just recap quickly. Zims actually function by converting a mouse and keyboard's inputs through a physical controller that you also have to have plugged in at the same time. This is why your console thinks you're still using one, because technically you are. This obviously becomes hard to detect. It's not like an aimbot, which performs actions you can't physically do with a controller. That's fairly easy for a dev to spot and iron out. Zims and other devices like it really are just conversion boxes, taking taking one set of inputs and routing them through another device. They do come with their own limitations as well, despite what people think. You're only able to input data that a controller can itself replicate. Fast aim flicking doesn't work because a controller can't do that. It's a common misconception that Zims just give you an exact one-to-one mouse and keyboard experience. It is still arguably a big advantage though, don't get me wrong about that. I do feel for Blizzard in this instance because I'm not sure there's a lot they can actually do about it. They have by all accounts tried to change how console controls work to make these devices less effective, but a good number of comments in that Reddit thread were discussing how badly that has messed up regular users' aiming. Mike Ybarra, corporate vice president of Xbox, did say back in February that devs have access to APIs that help them detect and disable these kinds of devices. But I have to believe it's not that simple. I'm sure Blizzard would not just ignore tools that could help them if they were truly of any use. This is why I don't think there's an easy answer, I'm afraid. That is, of course, unless you do what Epic did for Fortnite, which was to natively support mouse and keyboard on consoles that allow it. PS4 Fortnite players can just plug their mouse and keyboards in directly. Even Jeff Kaplan has suggested this as a possible solution at one point. Now I know that might be a bit controversial, and with somewhat good reason, but there really might not be a better option at the moment. A Zim gives a user an advantage over pad players that you can't do anything about unless you also use one. Native support at least gives everyone the opportunity to use the same tools without cheating. It's not perfect. I'm sure many console players would still prefer to use just a controller on a level playing field, but at this point, that isn't the world we live in. The next issue is the Smurf problem. It's very easy to create another account on a console, and because of the way game sharing works, particularly on PS4, that new account can have access to Overwatch. This is obviously an issue. Smurfs are also a thing on PC, but players do have to buy a new version of the game. If they didn't, imagine how many more Smurfs there would be. That's the console Smurf situation. I guess one of the only things Blizzard could do is require a Battle.net sign-in to play, or they could do a similar thing to how they've managed Top 500 rank this season on PC, whereby users have to have a phone number registered and validated to their account to qualify. That was in response to loads of top ranked players having multiple Smurf accounts all in Top 500, clogging up the ladder, but a similar approach could be taken with console Smurfs. But I'm sad to say, I'm also fairly sure that that would go against some console terms of service agreements with the manufacturers, which is why they haven't explored these options as of yet. It's really murky water, and I totally understand console players' frustration regarding this issue, but again, it's hard to see a really clear way through. One thing that Blizzard can do a better job of, I think, is the separate balance issue between PC and console. I see comments all the time from console players saying how dominant Pharmacy is on that platform, and it's kind of easy to imagine why. Hitscan and highly mechanically demanding heroes are just harder with a controller, so in turn, a hero like Pharah instantly becomes stronger if one of her best counters, like say Widow, is much harder to play. Ana is another example. Blizzard have tried changing her, giving her an ally aim assist slider to make playing her easier, but she's still very difficult to use. She's not fantastically strong on PC, but it's even worse on console. I get the impression console players really want a version of the game that is tailored much better to the strengths and weaknesses of console specifically, and a big part of that may be in how heroes are tuned. And more than that, I think console players want to see bigger tuning changes than they've seen previously. Perhaps console Pharah has smaller direct hit damage or smaller blast radius. Perhaps console Diva has more defense matrix to eat more rockets, etc. While exploring these kinds of options, we do have to be a little bit careful with that particular example, however, as there is a major hit scan range buff coming soon, likely when Hammond arrives, where Soldier and McCree have their damage fall off values improved. But my overall point is, console Overwatch cannot be balanced like it's just a port. It has its own technical restraints that influence its meta. It should be balanced accordingly. This might result in the two versions of the game being radically different, but I actually don't think that's the worst outcome possible. It's arguable they already are, just not in a way that's fun. Of course, if they did allow native mouse and keyboard support like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these balance issues might iron themselves out somewhat, but I can totally understand why the community might not be in favour of that. But anything to help the console community feel like they're not just an afterthought would be a significant win. They already don't get access to the PTR, for example, they get all the content significantly later because of that. Blizzard could do a better job of communicating what they're working on specifically for the console community. At least that would give them something to look forward to. One thing's for sure, console Overwatch is hurting, and a lot of the reasons for that have been around for quite a long time. They need resolution one way or another, even if the best answers available aren't perfect. If you're a console player, let me know in the comments section below what is the most pressing issue that Blizzard needs to address as far as you're concerned. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback. And that's about it for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you never want to miss another video of ours again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter, as where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.